Marcus Rodriguez had been stationed on Kepler 442b for 8 months when the refugee ship arrived. The mining colony wasn't much to look at prefab structures scattered across rust-colored plains under a pale orange sky, but it was humanity's foothold in this corner of the galaxy. When the distress beacon lit up their communications array, Marcus never expected it would change his life forever. The ship was Zephyrian, unmistakably alien with its organic curves and bioluminescent hull patterns. As the colony's xenobiologist, and one of the few humans who spoke basic Zephyrian, Marcus was called to the landing pad. What he found broke his heart. 17 survivors stumbled from the damaged vessel, their normally pristine blue-scaled skin dulled by exhaustion and trauma. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species, known throughout the galaxy for their advanced biotechnology and philosophical nature. Seeing them reduced to refugees was a stark reminder of the war that raged across 3 sectors. Among them was Lirale, a scientist whose research Marcus had actually cited in his own papers. She clutched a small bundle to her chest, her daughter, Zira, barely 3 years old by human standards. The little one's scales shimmered with the iridescent quality unique to Zephyrian children, and her large amber eyes darted nervously around. The alien landscape. The hegemony destroyed our research station, Lirale explained in halting standard, as Marcus helped process the refugees. They wanted our bioweapon research. When we refused ... she didn't need to finish. The Tyrannid. Hegemony's reputation for brutality preceded them. The colony director, a gruff ex-military man named Harrison, made it clear the Zephyrians could stay temporarily while arrangements were made for proper refugee placement. But they're not our responsibility long-term, he warned Marcus privately. Don't get too attached. Marcus tried to heed that advice. He really did. But Zira made it impossible. The little girl was naturally curious, and despite her mother's protective hovering, she often wandered near Marcus's lab. Zephyrian children learn through bioempathic bonding, absorbing knowledge and emotional context from trusted adults. It was how their species had survived and thrived through deep, meaningful connections. The breakthrough came during week 3. Marcus was collecting soil samples near the HAB modules when Zira approached, her small hand reaching toward a flowering desert plant. "Careful, little star," he said gently in Zephyrian, using the endearment he'd learned from xenocultural studies. "Those thorns can hurt." Zira's eyes widened, not in fear, but in wonder. She chirped something in rapid Zephyrian baby talk that Marcus didn't understand, but the emotion was clear. Delight. For the first time since arriving, she wasn't afraid. From that moment, Zira sought him out constantly. She would sit in his lab, chattering in her mixture of Zephyrian and broken standard while he worked. Marcus found himself explaining his research to her, showing her microscopic organisms through his equipment, teaching her the names of human constellations visible in Kepler's night sky. Lirale watched these interactions with growing concern and something that looked almost like hope. "She has never bonded with anyone except me," she told Marcus one evening. "Not even her biological father, before he died in the attack. But with you?" She trailed off, her amber eyes reflecting complex emotions. The moment that changed everything happened on a Thursday. Marcus was in the colony's small marketplace, trading for supplies, when he heard Zira's delighted squeal. She had broken away from her mother and was running straight toward him, her small arms outstretched. "Dada! Dada!" she cried in standard, the word clear and unmistakable. The marketplace fell silent. Every human colonist turned to stare. But it was Lirale's reaction that hit Marcus like a physical blow. She stood frozen, her blue skin shifting to a pale silver, the Zephyrian equivalent of shock. In their culture, children only use parental terms for those they had bioempathically bonded with. It wasn't just affection. It was recognition of a soul-deep connection. Zira reached Marcus and wrapped her small arms around his legs, chattering happily in Zephyrian about the pretty rocks she'd found. Marcus knelt down to her level, his heart pounding as he met Lirale's stunned gaze over the child's head. I I don't understand, Lirelei whispered, approaching slowly. She has never. How is this possible? Marcus lifted Zira into his arms, feeling the rightness of it settle into his bones. Maybe, he said carefully, some connections transcend species. That night, Lirelei came to his quarters. They talked for hours about bioempathic bonding, about loss and hope, about the war that had torn her world apart. She explained that Zira's bonding with Marcus wasn't just unprecedented, it was miraculous. Zephyrian children who lost parents often struggled to form new connections. The fact that Zira had bonded across species lines suggested something profound about both human emotional capacity and the universal nature of love. My people believe that bonds choose us, not the other. Way around, Lirelei said softly. Perhaps this is why we survived to reach your world. 6 months later, when the Galactic Refugee Commission finally contacted the colony about relocating the Zephyrians, Marcus made a decision that surprised no one except himself. You requested transfer to whatever world would accept Lirelei and Zira. You sure about this, Rodriguez? Director Harrison asked, though his gruff exterior couldn't hide his approval. That's a hell of a commitment. Marcus watched through the window as Zira played in the colony's small garden, her scales shimmering with health and happiness. She was teaching other refugee children a human clapping game, her laughter mixing with theirs in a symphony of hope. Yeah, he said, unconsciously echoing the title of those old human war stories that had inspired a generation of spacers. I guess I'm dad now. The galaxy was vast and often hostile, filled with species that saw humanity as young and reckless. But sometimes, Marcus reflected, the most important battles weren't fought with weapons or warships. Sometimes they were won with open hearts in the radical act of choosing love across the void between worlds. As Zira ran toward him, calling, Dada, in perfect standard, Marcus understood that he hadn't just gained a daughter. He had become living proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their stubbornness. It was their infinite capacity to expand the definition of family. The HFY spirit lived not in conquest, but in connection.